At McAfeebas, week 2.
We
Here
are
we
so
are.
back. Yep. All right. Well, with that, I suppose it's been an exciting week too here in BPDL. A lot of games were played,
Very.
some games were not played, and we'll get to that controversy later in the show. But with that, I guess we'll start. We're mixing up the order a little bit this week, and we'll go to the week 2 recap. So, some big things happened this week. Start off with one of the most exciting games of the week, the Las Vegas Gladiators. They cement themselves as contender, and Dudon Sparse makes a statement. I know we've got a segment on this later in the show, but what are your initial thoughts?
I mean, when I watched a normal type like that kill an Urshifu like it did, it's it's a good day to be a normal type, let me tell you. Or
That
maybe a fairy type if you watch real close.
Oh, for sure. Using the rattled ability to its advantage, it was honestly an incredible performance. Now, in addition to this, we see Naples Knackley continuing their blitz. They take a 5-0 win, number one in the league, with the highest differential. What are your thoughts on this? I don't know if there are many thoughts besides it's just impressive at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've had one Pokemon die in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
so we know what the weak link is, and but the other links are pretty damn strong.
That they are. All right, the we got the Pyro Challengers also jumping out to 2-0, and they are honestly, with the dominance in their wins, looking like title contenders. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this might come up in the future, but they're one of the cryagonal users, so I think they're seeing things that other people aren't.
For sure, for sure. They have that Terra Cryogonal, which is, it seems like it might be one of the better picks of this season. Now, moving on, we have the Cincinnati Cinderaces, a new team this season, but they have also started 2-0, and it looks like they're just trying to make a statement. What is your take on this?
Yeah, I love to see new talent in the league, and I think the Cinderaces, I'm ready for them to have a great rookie season here.
For sure. Other huge news, Goat Coal, 0-4. Will it lose its name? And 1-4 in the kill death ratio, or not ratio, I guess the just the KD. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think goats go 0-4 is all I'm gonna say. I think do I dare I use the word fraudulent? Maybe.
I think there is quite a bit behind that claim. I agree. It almost does look like Goat Coal is just fraud coal at this point. We have an extremely fluky Washington Genesects game. As I'm sure many of our viewers know, they are a poverty franchise, but managed to 6-0 this week. Now, how do you think this happened? I know we'll cover it later.
I mean, honestly, it could have been talent. Don't get me wrong, it could have been. But
Could have.
what's way more likely? I think the Genesects got pretty lucky.
I would completely agree. And then I think we'll cover your take on this from last week, but Samurott Hisui has taken the lead on the kill leaderboard. And in a shocking move, Delphox was tooled. I know we'll get to that later, but there is some controversy on whether or not this is a fraudulent takeover of the kill leaderboard. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I think we'll talk about it later. So I will not give my opinion right now, but I have a lot of opinions on this matter.
For sure, for sure. All right, and with that, we'll move into our next segment, Valid, Invalid, where you tell me some takes and I tell you if they're valid. I think that's how we're doing
Yep.
this. All right.
Yep, I think that's how it's gonna roll.
All right. So,
All
on to
right,
the first.
take one. Cryagonal is criminally underrated as a budget pick, as a Terra captain, or otherwise. Is this a valid take or an invalid take?
Honestly, I think it's valid. From what I've seen, Cragganol managed to get the Washington Genesects a win. Now, if you don't understand how shocking that is, I don't think I can describe it to you. It's insane. It's almost unbelievable. And Cragganol, from what I know, just a great team player. Honestly, doesn't complain about PT. It's great. Even when he's on the bench, he's a great locker room presence. I have heard nothing but positivity about Cragganol.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, as we talked about last week, those ice types really do like Washington, and so Cryagonal, the ice type shining in Washington, not surprised to hear it.
for sure. All right, second take.
Hisuian Electrode can turn the tides in the next Scarlet and Green match.
Uh,
Valid, invalid.
Honestly, valid. Hisuian Electrode obviously has that incredible signature move, Chloroblast, and 150 base speed stat. I mean, with stats like that, the tangibles, if you will, plus intangibles, being from Hisui, old and wise, has a lot of knowledge of the game it can give to its teammates. I mean, I just think that Hisuian Electrode for sure can turn the tides of this next match.
I think that's a great take.
All right. We're on to take number three.
The Miami Durant understand now. Do you agree?
Honestly, after a conversation with the Miami Durant coach this week, I'm gonna say it's valid. Miami Durant do seem to understand it now. They understand the predicament they are in, the pressure they are under because of the goat coal, fraud coal allegations. I mean, the coach has realized that his job could be on the line. I mean, it's possible that the Miami Durant look in another direction if this week doesn't go well. And with that in mind, I think he's going to rise to the occasion, and I will throw out my prediction right now, 5-0 this week.
Wow, that's a pretty bold prediction there.
Yeah? Yeah? All right. And on to the next take.
The Baltimore Typhlosions also understand it now.
Now this one, it's not valid. It's invalid. This take's invalid. Now look, I would say if the Baltimore Typhlosions had any other schedule, it might be valid. But unfortunately, they are running up into not just the potential three-peat champions this week, but for the rest of the for I think the rest of their schedule, they're only playing teams that made the playoffs last season. Now, I mean, you could say they just got the worst draw in the league, and I would agree with you, but I mean, this is just an absolutely invalid take. You cannot have this take with the schedule the Typhlosions have in front of them.
All right, there you have it.
All right.
Our next take is that Lugia is a valid Mon to use in Gen 9 draft.
Now, look, this is one that has sparked a lot of controversy, seen a lot of talk about this on X and on Reddit. I mean, I've seen just social media influencers going crazy over the take that Lugia is valid to use in Gen 9 draft. And what you may not know is that I was part of the test season for BPDL to see if Lugia was valid to use. And my opinion, this is a valid take. It's a valid take. I think Lugia, when the skill level is high enough of the player field, as I feel that it was in BPDL, I think it's a valid Pokemon to allow. I think it's not too broken, but if it has its National Dex moveset, it is too broken. So in that case, it's an invalid opinion. But considering it says Gen 9 draft, I'm giving this one valid.
Wow, I've heard that Lugia is really enjoying retirement, but if there's a chance Lugia might put the cleats back on, I'm all here for it.
Yeah, for sure. I have heard rumors that Lugia might be coming out, but we will see. All right.
All right, our next take. Natdex toxic distribution is lame.
This
Valid
take,
or invalid?
it's invalid. I mean, clearly the person here got beat by a stall team because he forgot what taunt was. I mean, that's just a clear, like, it's just a salty take right here. It's obviously an invalid take. Look, toxic, it's like the tush push in football. I mean, you kind of hate it when it gets used against you, but when you're watching on TV, you're like, wow, that is just a good strategy. It is solid, fundamental, hard-nosed Pokemon. I mean, that's all it is to it.
You just gotta be tough.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. The next take is that the Washington Genesects are America's team.
Now, this is an interesting one. I don't know if you know, but on r/Stunfisk, this was actually the number one trending topic for the last week. I mean, apparently there's been a bunch of allegations that after that 6-0, Washington Genesects could be America's team. And with that, you'd think that this was a valid take, but it is not. This is an invalid take. To be America's team, I mean, you have to be a competent organization to start. Like, and when you got an owner like Jalek of the Washington Genesects, who is just a meddling owner, likes to draft a lot of risky players, and honestly doesn't even get the best out of them. It's just You have to be able to win championships if you're America's team, and I have no confidence that the Washington Genesects can or ever will win a championship. So with that, I
Wow.
mean, this is it's the most invalid take I've ever seen.
You'd say this is the worst take of all of the takes we've gone through so
For
far.
sure. I mean, I couldn't even imagine we see a worse one, but we might. We might.
All right, let's see.
All right.
The next take is that Defog's Dex cut was a horrible change. Is this a valid or invalid take?
Now, this is an interesting one as it has sparked some controversy, not as recently, but back when Gen 9 did come out. This was a hot topic, especially in the YouTube place. I mean, number one, two, and three trending on YouTube were videos about Defog's Dex cut, if I remember correctly. But my take, this is an invalid take. I think Defog's Dex cut was awesome. I think when you have to play more skillfully around hazards, it's just going to you need the better players, you need the better coaches. It's just better for the game. It has to increase our standard of play. And honestly, I think having better players and coaches out there it can't be a bad thing. It's just a good thing.
I hear you. I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. All right.
Our next take here is one it's a little personal for me. You see, last week in week 1 of the Pat McAfeebas show, I went on record saying, personally, I don't think that Samurott Hisui is a killer, and Samurott Hisui cannot maintain its tie for the lead and now taken the lead in kills. What do you think about this take?
Now, this take, I mean, it was just immediately proven to be an awful take. It's invalid. This take is just terrible. I mean, even with the controversy of Delphox being tooled out of its kills, which obviously we'll cover later, it's just a terrible take. I mean, Samurott, with the performance it showed, basically single-handedly defeating the Miami Durant. I mean, the rest of its team just got sacrificed. It was insane. It was literally just Samurott Hisui doing all of the killing out there. Seeing this quote now, personally, I don't think Samurott Hisui is a killer. It's an extremely invalid take, and it gets close to that Washington Genesects. Not as bad, but close to the Washington Genesects take.
I'm willing to concede. I think I may have been wrong about this one because this Samurott into the Miami Durant last week, it took to the skies. That thing, it aerial aced its way through the entire team, proving me and all of the haters wrong that it is most definitely a killer. And
That
I
it
think you
did.
can see here
Yeah.
is a clear example of a Samurott Hisui in its natural element, the aerial ace flying through the night sky.
Yes, I mean, honestly, this graphic, amazing put together by a graphics team, but it does exemplify exactly what Samurott did this week as an aerial ace that it is. And we just saw it sweep through Kyle's team after already putting up spikes with Ceaseless Edge and taking out the one they call Goat Cole. It was just honestly, it was an inspiring performance, and I expect to see him potentially look. Not saying he will, but he's got to be in the MVP conversation after 2 weeks.
I've got a question for you. If he killed the goat Cole, do you think there's any merit to the statement that Samurott Hisui is the goat himself?
I I mean I think that's on the table. I didn't want to say it out loud. I don't know. We might get some hate in the comments section for that, but I think it's valid. I think Samurai Hisui could be the GOAT with this. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a very real chance.
All right. So we will move on to, well, this is shocking. An extreme weather report from Columbus, Ohio. Now, if you didn't tune in, this, Skylar, I want you to describe because you were actually there for this happening.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go back in time a little bit. There was a Pokemon Regional Championships VGC tournament in Louisville, Kentucky, and I attended with a bunch of the coaches from BPDL, and we all competed. And Gavin, our coach of the Columbus Clodsires, performed pretty well at this tournament, and he did so on the back of his Pelipper. And there was one specific game where it was a turn one lead. I believe it was a turn one, where he had his
Correct.
Pelipper on the field in the rain against a Volcarona, and a different Pokemon, maybe an Incineroar. I don't know. I might need to check the facts again. But this turn, our coach of the Columbus Clodsires locks in a Hurricane in the Rain on the Volcarona, which on paper might sound like a great play. But the way this turn unfurled was that the Volcarona's teammate switched out into a Sunsetter who I believe was Torkoal. I could be wrong, but I doubt it was a Ninetales. And so the alleged goat switches onto the field, switches the sunlight on. Next thing you know, the Hurricane has a 50% accuracy. Step 2 of this turn is that the Volcarona clicks Quiver Dance. And so it is so safe from this Pelipper. But the Columbus Clodsires love their Pokemon more. And even though this Hurricane wouldn't have killed, if it didn't crit, we did not have to worry about that. So this Hurricane, Blind Hurricane in the sun with a 50% chance of hitting, lands on the Volcarona, and then picks up a critical hit. And we've done the math here for you. There is only a 3.125% chance of that. Astronomically low.
Unbelievable. I mean, that opponent must have just probably forfeited the game immediately. That I would have been
Yeah,
so mad.
I would have been so mad too. Stuff like that doesn't happen often. But when it
But,
does, let me tell you, the Columbus Clodsires are involved.
and this is important because the weather got cold in Columbus, and Skylar, could you tell us, did the same thing happen?
Something far more sinister occurred in Columbus this week. We had a +4/+4 Registeel Terra fighting facing down an Iron Bundle. And now, on paper, it looks like this is an unlosable matchup for the Registeel, but there's a couple of factors going on here. First of all, it was out of body presses, so instead of killing the Iron Bundle 7 times over, it actually is just going to be playing a PP stall game here, where we're just trying to kill some PP on the Iron Bundles team, right? But if you have luck like the Columbus Clodsires, you can get through this Pokemon pretty easy. First step is you click Ice Beam and you take your 10% chance of freezing the target. Obviously, the Columbus Clodsires 10%, that's nothing. That's child's play here. The craziest thing happens after this is that this Registeel stays frozen for a total of 9 turns after the initial freeze at a whopping 1.34% chance of happening. This Registeel could have stalled out so many more Ice Beams and made this game a little bit closer. But God smiles on the Columbus Clodsires.
That he does. This game was unbelievable. I was there live in the stadium for this one. I mean, you could just feel the air drain out of the the Cerulean Sylveon's fans. It was tough to watch live, you know.
Yeah, I heard the stadium get real quiet after
Yeah,
that 8th freeze.
for sure. Once you saw that freeze happen on the ninth turn, and you saw that Ice Beam just go into it and knock it into KO range, I mean, it was hard to watch, to be honest. Especially when
I
you
will
still got some rest PP left. Sorry, you
Yeah,
go.
there's a lot of PP in there. I will say that week 1, I said the Columbus Clodsires are going to be a threat, and that's exactly why. They do stuff like this. You can never count them out.
For sure. I mean, honestly, just it's a chilling story, if I'm gonna be honest. I I mean, yeah, that's all I can say. All right, but with that weather report, we move on to the only thing that could potentially beat the Cloudstars, and can you explain why, Skylar?
Well, clearly, the Clodsires have the ability to freeze things for 10 turns. But the only person and coach who the Columbus Clodsires fear is Scrat from Ice Age, the one who can break out of any ice. No matter the size of the glacier or the iceberg, Scrat is there to break it in half. And trust me, he would absolutely eviscerate this Iron Bundle led Columbus Clodsires team because that is what he does.
For sure, for sure. Honestly, Scrat might have to be picked up in a free agent transaction by one of the teams that will end up playing the Cloudstars. I think it would be a good move, personally.
I
Um,
agree. I think Scrat's been on the bench for long enough. I think he's exactly the kind of player that you need to make a big difference in these kind of matchups.
for sure, for sure. And honestly, I've heard he is raring to go. So we will have to keep a close eye on potential transactions. All right. So, in an extremely, extremely unfortunate week for three-peats, as many of you probably saw, the Chiefs were defeated in the Super Bowl, and it honestly wasn't very close. But as if that's not bad enough, our own President Butts was tooled. He was unable to play his game due to scheduling conflicts and ended up having to take a forfeit win. Now, this obviously is tragic for his differential and for his potential getting Delphox on the kill leaderboards. What do you think about this, and how does it affect the three-peat chances?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, we all thought Mahomes was gonna three-peat, and we all thought President Butts was gonna three-peat. And well, the Super Bowl clearly showed us that one of them wasn't gonna happen, so it throws into question the other. Will President Butts three-peat without a potential 4, 5, 6-0? I think that's gonna put him a little lower on the kill leaderboard here. You see, because the Naples Knackley picked up a 5-0 this week, and so they're
It did.
they're steamrolling ahead right now in the differential. So
For sure. I mean, look, I'm not reporting this officially, but off the record, I have seen quite a bit of Instagram threads that have said it's possible that Commissioner Big Man Gerber is actually trying to keep President Butts out of the three-peat. What do you think about that? Is this forfeit actually staged by the league in order to get his differential down?
I've heard some of the conspiracy theories. I've seen some of the stuff you're talking about, and the discussion is totally out there as to whether or not the league is fair. I think that people are seeing stuff like 1% 9-turn freezes, and they're starting to ask questions. And so I think as a viewer, it's always important to think about the integrity of the league. And so
For
I'm not
sure.
gonna say that it's not happening, but I definitely won't say that it is.
For sure. We're gonna have to keep a close eye on that, and we may have a segment on it next week. So, with that, the freezing tensions and temperatures have hit in Washington. Now, as we covered earlier, Washington Genesects got a very fluky 6-0 with a star performance by Cryogonal after, as you may remember, Articuno taking some shots at the Genesects last week. Now, what is your take on this quote by Cryogonal? I have a hobby of disappointing people who want to see me fail, obviously after its great performance, and then Articuno refusing to comment.
Yeah, I mean, I as Articuno's not has not historically been a major player, and so this is kind of a big blow to your Articuno stocks here. After you went out and said that the Washington Genesects couldn't do anything with ice types, I'd
For
be interested to. I would love to hear a comment from Articuno if there was one, but Articuno's staying quiet here, which is a definitely a interesting PR move.
It is for sure, and I do think you actually covered last week that the Washington Genesects have historically been very successful with ice types. That was a great take by you. Um, Really, you did seem to see this coming, but I will make a take here that Articuno may end up being very vocal next week if the Genesects do in fact lose to the Naples Knackley, and in the way Naples Knackley has been playing, the Genesects might end up getting rolled. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to be an ice type fighting a rock type like a Knackley, let me tell you. But
For
I
sure.
think that Articuno is quite the diva, and so I would expect comments from Articuno going forward through the league here, because Articuno is not one who's going to stay quiet, whether it be on social media or on television. Articuno's going to let you know.
I would agree. All right. And with that, we 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 have one of the biggest stories is the Las Vegas Latias. They get a sweep with Dudunsparce, but as it is very widely known in the Las Vegas Latias is one of their most iconic draft league games. They clicked Hyper Voice into a soundproof combo. Now, as you probably know, Dudunsparce's strongest move is Boom Burst, which is also affected by Soundproof. So it seems there could be another Soundproof incident this season. Now, what are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts on how they managed to not get into a Soundproof situation this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the first I was there in person for the first soundproof incident, and
Yeah.
it reminds me of the time when the Seahawks passed the ball on the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl. It was a tough moment. They had the game and they
Yeah.
threw it away, and so I think big man Nico here choosing not to use a sound based move I think was a phenomenal call by him. Play to your strengths, and sound based moves are not his strengths.
For sure. I think you're so right about that. If he can manage to avoid clicking this boom burst, I think that the Dude on Sparse could be a great mon for him this season. I just think it is tempting when you see that 140 base power to click it, but with his history of missing those soundproof abilities, I think it's too big of a risk.
I agree. I think you gotta find a maybe a little bit weaker of a move, but maybe a move that's gonna be more consistent for you that does not get just ignored by your opponents.
I agree. I agree. All right, and that is our final story. Any takes, any predictions for the upcoming week, Skylar?
Yeah, I think this next week's gonna be I think it's gonna be really I think it's gonna be a big week in deciding how the future of this league goes. I think we're kind of through our little warm up 2 weeks here, and so we're getting into like the main stretch now. So I think the real front runner teams are gonna cement themselves next week.
For sure, for sure. I would agree. Do you think, now here's an interesting question. Will the Naples Knackley get another 5 or 6-0 and really just stretch? Because as we discussed, there was the forfeit scandal in which President Butts was denied quite a bit of potential differential. I mean, he could have lost, but, you know, overall, it does give the Naples Knackley a big lead. Do you think they take a 5 or 6-0 this week and just stretch the lead to almost insurmountable?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Naples here, you can afford to take your foot off the gas a little bit because you have such a big lead. But
For
I
sure.
think for the same reason, why would you, right? While you have the momentum, I'm all for using it. And so I think next week is going to be a good week for the Naples Knackley, especially as you mentioned they're playing the Washington Genesex, who clearly have had some locker room issues and some management issues. So I
For
think
sure.
I think that the Knackley are a well-oiled machine, and so they're gonna put forth their best game.
I agree. I agree. And then just one final thing. What is your prediction on how Goat Cole will perform this next week? Now, keep in mind that at least one Goat Cole is playing President Butts this week. What do you expect from him?
I think Goat Cole is not horrible, right? Is
Right.
he the goat? We'll
That's
see.
debatable.
But he's not bad. So I'm expecting at least one kill from Goat Cole this week and at least one death. So I'm expecting a more average week where we've had a couple of poor performances from the goat.
For sure. I would agree. All right. Well, do you have any final thoughts for our viewers?
I don't think so. If anyone is interested in watching the near to Dunsparce choking, watch we did a video on the Las Vegas Latias. We commentated it live, so
We
that's
did.
on the Craisins channel. If you just click into the Pat McAfee show, you'll see the episode.
Yes, and if you've been watching this long, for sure, like and subscribe, and definitely comment and let us know how many kills does Samurai Hisui end the season with, and will it be the kill leader?
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know too if you like to valid or invalid. If you want to drop more takes, we'll
Yeah,
be perusing the comments, and so we can run it back in the future with some of your takes too.
we will indeed. All right, with that, I will see you guys at another time.